Hey everybody, it's Joe from House of Stereo, and today I have and would like to introduce my father Fred. You know, we go all over the country and do the audio shows. Dad and I were both in LA a couple weeks back with my daughter Lily. For the Seattle show, I had some things I had to do here in Florida, so I sent Dad instead in my place. The reason that we were out in Seattle is because we partnered with Gershman Acoustics using our Wolf audio system servers. We sent an Alpha 3SX and an Aavik D580 DAC with Dad to run that room. If you've seen any of our previous videos, you'll know I have a very strong affinity for Gershman Acoustics. Ellie and Ofra, great people. The speakers are just amazing at their price point. In general, any way you want to look at Gershman, it's apparent that Ellie is a brilliant speaker designer. So in any event, what happened out in Seattle was they took the Grande Avant-Garde 30th Anniversary Edition loudspeakers, and they were showing off the Studio XdB. Behind me, these white bookshelves here are the Studio 2s. These are the $3,850 bookshelves, which in their own right are absolutely fantastic. And of course, the Grande Avant-Garde 30th Anniversary Edition are $17,995. But the XdBs are $12,000?
Yeah.
All right. So what'd you think?
Well, I'll tell you, I was amazed. I had listened to the Gershmans here in the shop just briefly when you had first gotten them in. And in a venue such as a show, sometimes it's difficult to get good sound, but we had a fairly large room. And I was shocked at how much the XdBs filled the room. And I was shocked at the size of the sound stage, the depth. They go down to 23 hertz. I mean, and in a small speaker, it's a unique design where the stand is actually part of the speaker. It's not just a stand in it, and that's part of why they get the extremely low bass in what appears to be a bookshelf speaker. But on the Friday morning before the show, I went in early in the morning to see how everything was and check it out, and I put on a live Aant-Gard album, and I was absolutely amazed because the sound stage exceeded the width of the speakers, and I just couldn't believe it because I've heard that on very few systems before. But everything about it was just amazing. I was shocked at the depth, the detail, and it was just very pleasant to listen to, very musical. It was a very, very good experience.
You know, and that's interesting. So the Grande Avant-Gardes go down to 22, and they accomplish that by use of this bass trap down here on the bottom. This speaker is actually a two-piece system. So the upper speaker, but then that bass is a bass trap, enabling this relatively small speaker to go down to 22 hertz. So a little bit of that activity is happening in the Studio XdBs. If you're new to Gershman Acoustics, let me give a little backstory. And this has been told to me by other people, so I'm retelling this story. Some number of years ago, Andrew Jones, the KEF guy, TAD guy, ELAC, now he's with MoFi, was walking through the halls of a show, I believe it was CES, and he heard the sound coming out of a room as he was passing by in the hall. And his interest was piqued, and he went in and met Ellie and Ofra, and they maintain a friendship to this day all these years later. And I wasn't fully aware of that, so we showed with Gershman at the Florida show. So February 2023, Wolf Audio Systems drove the Grande Avant-Garde system there, and I noticed that Andrew Jones, it seemed like every time I went up to the Gershman room, Andrew Jones was somewhere nearby. And over the course of the weekend, it became evident, you know, they were good friends. So to me, when you have, you know, Andrew Jones is quite a figure in this industry and is regarded as one of the most brilliant speaker designers of this generation. And so when he has a very close friendship with another speaker manufacturer, that kind of tells me that there's something going on there. You know, that here's a peer, right? And so, you know, that was interesting because I've owned any number of Andrew Jones designed speakers over the years. So anyhow, and incidentally, while Dad was over in Seattle, I happened to be down in South Florida because a very cool customer bought a pair of the Grande Avant-Gardes, and I dropped down over at his house to help him get his room squared away. So we were both doing stuff with Gershman Acoustics over the weekend, but Dad got to do it in Seattle. So anyhow, we've got some photos that we'll put up in a couple of little short videos of that room there at the show. There are a number of products that we sell here at House of Stereo that were represented at the show, and so we'll be publishing some of the content that Dad took while he was there. But in the meantime, if you have not heard Gershman Acoustics, then you need to come in, you need to hear this because it really is something special. And when you look at, you know, the Grande Avant-Gardes, by no means would you call them an inexpensive speaker. They're $17,995. But when you look at what you're getting for those dollars, the performance is off the charts. You know, there's very few speakers at that price point that can compete with them. And one of the things that I really like, and something that my wife pointed out and I immediately recognized as true, is it's not a big hulking speaker in the room. You can integrate this into a living room with a minimum of disruption to the wife, or, you know, to the aesthetic of the room. So we have the walnut panels, the grills on there. And normally, and if you know our shop, there's not a lot of grills on anything. But these don't impede the sound. They enhance the look of the speaker and help it to really blend into a room. So I love them for that reason. Soon we'll have the XdBs in here for you to listen to also. So that kind of bridges the gap because the Studio 2s are $3,850. The Grande Avant-Garde $17,995. The Studio XdBs are $12,000. So right there in the middle.
One thing I noticed at the show, first of all, the room was filled all the time for the first 2 days. Sunday, unfortunately, it was sunny, so it wasn't in Seattle that everybody was doing something else. But anyway, I noticed many people coming back multiple times and coming back bringing other people to listen to the Grande Avant-Gardes because they are absolutely amazing. They're shockingly good.
Yeah, that is kind of the metric. You remember David Chesky? We were in New York 2016. We did that. David comes in the room and he's there for a couple of minutes, and then he runs out and he's bringing and so David Chesky was just bringing people to the room all weekend long. Yeah, when you have those multiple time visitors, you know there's something really cool going on. Now that I think about it, Florida was the same way. We had a lot of people just coming back. Rex, of course, ended up buying a pair of the Grande Avant-Gardes, and his experience with them was February, Florida.
Yeah.
So, would you put a pair in the house?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without question. I was rethinking all the speakers that I aspire to having. I was thinking, you know, I'd be hard pressed to find something better anywhere near the price range of the Grande Avant-Gardes. And the Studio XdBs as well. I mean, just not much to compete with them in that price range.
You know, another thing, and another thing that I realized, and with Rex and his setup, his room is very particular. And the one thing that I find that really help Avant-Garde to work is that they don't have to be so far out from the wall. So we have these, they might be 18, 20 inches out. Placing them in a room, placing them close to the wall doesn't diminish them at all. You know, there's a lot of speakers in this category. They're going to want 3.5, 4 feet out from the wall and plenty of space. Gershman just seems to be able to work itself into any room, which is a really nice feature to have for a speaker because not many of us have the luxury of a dedicated audio room anymore. It has to blend. So anyhow, any other thoughts?
No, it's a great show though.
Was it?
I really enjoyed it. It's smaller than some of the other shows we go to, but I think in the future it's going to be expanding.
Okay. And that's Gary Gill, who does the DC show?
Yeah. And he was large and in charge. He was everywhere.
Was he?
Good guy.
Yeah, I like Gary. Yeah, if you haven't been to the DC show, definitely a great one to attend. Gary Gill is, he loves this industry. You could tell. You can tell when, you know, a showrunner this is his paycheck versus this is his passion projects and something to love. So that's what Gary brings to the table. So the DC show, you know, it's really central to a lot of the northern manufacturers. So a lot of the tri-state area, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, manufacturers and dealers get to come out big. And we're very closely tied to that area. So even down here in Florida, DC is our local regional show for us. And it feels like a family reunion. Florida is great because it's a tropical vacation in a lot of ways. It's February, and if you've been anywhere north of the Mason-Dixon line, then you've been freezing for a month. So it has its own atmosphere down in Florida, but DC is probably one of my favorite shows. I think it's the show we've done the longest, in fact. And we've got, you know, had great success with the big ballroom. We took Tad there one time, T+A, Orion Audio, Phase-Mation. I mean, we've done some really, really great systems. But this year, we're going to do it with Gershman. Anyhow, all right, guys. Well, thank you for, you know, watching. I hate to say it, but please like and subscribe to the videos. It makes me feel better about myself, I guess.
Now the commercial.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so like and subscribe. You know, that's how I know that this is having an impact, and it's always nice to, you know, to see those numbers grow. But anyhow, stay tuned. We'll be making more videos. Thanks, everyone.